innovators focus on flexibility of structure, because that's what this economy is demanding. I mean, you're going to talk a lot about this next generation. I know every single HR conference, we're talking a lot about the today's Generation X, whatever we want to call them. Think about the next generation. We're thinking about this generation right now. What happens with this next generation who will be in the workforce in 10 to 15 years? All we know about this generation is they have a very short attention span, and they've got very different concepts when it comes to loyalty and it comes to the concept of a career. And the best story I've ever seen in terms of what has happened with this generation, spending some time with an engineering company. They were based in a ski resort area. They were trying to hire a recent engineering graduate to work on their team. They do a lot of architectural work, a lot of design, a lot of infrastructure. They had a lot of good conversations back and forth. They made him the job offer, thought they had a good thing going, and he called in. He actually sent in a text and said, "No, I'm not taking the job." And the managing partner was mystified. I did some leadership work with these folks later on, and he told me the story. This was 2006. He was mystified. He said, I got to call the guy to find out why he didn't take the job. And he said he picked up the phone, and he called this young kid, and he said, this is how the conversation went. He said, we're curious why you didn't take the job. And he said, this is what the kid said. Well, dude, you have to understand, you're messing up with my powder time. And he went on to explain, that in his view, he could get the work done. He said, when I came into your office, all you talked about structure, all you talked about were your 9 to 5 hours. All you spoke about was your regular Tuesday afternoon project meetings. All you spoke about was your regular Thursday morning project sessions. And dude, there's fresh powder in the hills till 2. He turned down the job because for him and for his generation, they ask themselves and define themselves by a fundamentally different question. You ever notice when you spend time with a baby boomer? What do we tend to ask ourselves? What do you do for a living? Right? Watch this when you're having cocktails next time with someone. We always tend to ask each other, what do you do for a living? And you look at a younger generation. You look at Tom. And what do people like that, of that generation, ask themselves? And what does this snowboarder ask themselves in terms of life, career, workplace? What do you like to do? And I think that's the real tsunami of change that we are faced with as we go forward. And put this in context. In the US, they asked this generation a question, and more than 50% believe that self-employment is more secure than the full-time job. They've seen what has happened with this recession, with prior recessions. They are extremely entrepreneurial. We've seen that. We've witnessed that. I'll just go out and do my own thing. I'll create my own security. More than 50% believe self-employment is more secure than full-time job. They asked them, what's a long-term career? Well, it's about 2 to 5 years. 2 to 5 years is a long time to hang out at an organization. And the most stunning number is 67% of them admitted on their very first day in a new job, they're already thinking of another job. You're sitting there talking about the Employee Policy and Procedures Manual. They're looking straight through you. And the thing is, that's causing dramatic change in the workplace. But the dramatic change in the workplace is also coming from the fact that this is truly a jobless recovery. And what we have happening out there is millions of people going out into the workforce who are being forced to start to do their own thing. And that's why in some sectors, consulting engineers, for example, it is estimated within 3 years, more than 50% of consulting engineers in the US will work on a contingent contract basis. That is, they won't have a job. They will work for other organizations on a short-term, part-time basis. I call it the nomadic workforce, where increasingly the organization is going to consist of a lot of people who work in the core, and increasingly we go out and hire very specialized skills on an as-needed basis. That's why Asian Banker magazine talked about this in an article a few years ago. The whole outsourcing trend, it's going away from cost savings and saving money, and it's becoming a strategic tool. Outsourcing is quickly transitioning to a tool to get the best, the access to the best people at the right time for the right purpose. And so what organizations are focused on is global scalability, rapid assembly of teams, fundamentally shaking up what it is we do and how we do it. And I think this is a key trend that is playing out, not just with these young people who are going to do their own thing, and we're going to have a difficult time in getting access to their skills. I think there's an increasing number of boomers who are beginning to ask themselves the same question. What do I like to do? And that's going to define what I will do in the workplace in the future.